All right, so I was up late last night and I stumbled upon this Reddit story that honestly creeped me out. This story starts with a kid named Ethan. Ethan was a quiet and shy kid and didn't really talk to anybody. He was the kind of kid that spent most of his time in his room. And then one day, he found Lil Peep. And something about Peep's music just clicked for him. Everything about him just mesmerized Ethan, like the way he looked and talked. He especially liked his Castles mixtape too. It was like Ethan finally found someone who was kind of like him. At first, it was normal. It was just a boy who developed a deep passion for an artist's music. He was listening all the time, learning every Peep lyric and watching all of his interviews. But it didn't stay normal for long. When Lil Peep passed in 2017, something in Ethan snapped. And before people around him knew it, he started dressing like Peep and wearing the same clothes as him, and even dyeing his hair the same way as him. And he eventually got identical tattoos with the same placements too. Yes, even the small ones most people wouldn't even notice. His room changed too. Like it didn't look like a bedroom anymore. It was more like a shrine dedicated to just Lil Peep. He had posters plastered everywhere, merch covered the entire walls, and he had lyrics taped up in every corner of that room. Like there was no part of that room that wasn't Lil Peep. And Ethan started to make music too. I mean, he was Peep's biggest fan after all, so he was trying to sound as close to Peep as possible. He would try to write similar things that he thought Peep would say, but when people heard it, they all said the same thing. It didn't sound inspired, it sounded off, like something about it wasn't right. And that's when people around him started getting worried. His friends stopped coming over and his family noticed he stopped leaving his room as much. And this wasn't the normal routine he had where he didn't leave his bedroom. Like he wouldn't leave it for days at a time. So eventually they staged an intervention. They sat him down and tried to talk to him calmly and told him that they were worried about him. They tried to tell him like, hey, like this is getting out of control. And for a second, it sounded like he was listening. You know, he was quiet. He didn't say anything. But then he snapped. He started yelling at everybody and telling them that they didn't understand and that they were the problem and they were the ones that were stopping him from becoming who he was supposed to be. And then he said something that stuck with everyone in that room. You think I'm trying to be him? I'm not. But I am getting closer though. After that, he stopped trying to explain himself. And that's when the praying started. Every single night, Ethan would sit in the same spot in his room, lights off, headphones on, just sitting there, whispering to Lil Peep. And these prayers weren't asking for help, they were asking for guidance and to be changed. This went on for weeks. Like his family could sometimes hear him through the doors, just talking to himself. And on one night, everything changed. His mom walked past his room, but then she stopped because she heard two voices instead of one. One of them sounded like Ethan, and the other one sounded like him too, but slower and heavier, like it was learning how to talk. They opened the door and found Ethan just sitting perfectly still in the middle of his room with his hood on, not saying a word. They called out to him, but they didn't get any response. They called out his name again, and this time he turned around. But when he stood up, it felt so unnatural, like it was like super stiff, like almost like he was being controlled in a way. And then when he finally stood all the way up, all he said to them was, I told you, all I needed to do was get closer. And then after that night, he changed completely. He looked the same. I mean, as normal as somebody who's actively trying to look like Lil Peep could look. I mean, he had the same face and voice, but nothing about Ethan felt the same. And he started making music again and posting it online. And this time, people started to listen, but everybody who heard it said the same thing. They couldn't explain it, but it didn't sound like somebody who was trying to be Lil Peep. It sounded like a copycat. This made Ethan, or what people thought was Ethan, very upset. And he began to lash out at his parents. And they saw a huge shift in Ethan's personality. Like whenever they would have interactions with him, he would just have violent outbursts and just crawl in the corner and yell out Lil Peep lyrics. Specifically, the lyrics from his song Switchblades. But every single time Ethan would have one of these episodes, his family would point out that they would always hear another voice, just slightly layered underneath Ethan's. It was quiet and distorted, almost like it was trying to push through. Ethan started to experience violent convulsions, which were also accompanied by these trance-like states and hallucinations. A neurologist diagnosed him with split personality disorder, and that made everything make sense. There were obvious and exaggerated switches in his mannerisms and speech patterns, and also memory loss and disassociation, like he had all of it. He was prescribed medication to help manage it, but the meds didn't really help much at all. And as time went on, Ethan's condition began to deteriorate even further. He started to actually believe that he was Lil Peep. But his family, who were deeply religious, were convinced that it was something else entirely. A demon, a maniacal spirit that manifested itself into their son. But there's something very important about Ethan's family that I didn't mention before. They had a very dark secret that they had been carrying and hiding for years, way before Ethan was even born. And once Ethan's dad saw what was happening to his son, he broke down and started crying. Because the secret that they had been trying to hide was a prophecy that the family realized was being manifested in front of them in real time. Years ago, both Ethan's parents were involved in a hit and run, and they thought that there weren't any witnesses. But a day after the incident, Ethan's dad gets a phone call from a private number, and when he picks up, the person on the other end goes, "I saw what you did." Ethan's dad doesn't know how to react or what to even say, and before he could even respond, the person goes, "You left me there, and because of that, I won't leave you. And when I come for your child, you'll know it was me." Then the call dropped. Ethan's dad tried to call the number back, but there wasn't any trace of it. Then one day later, it was reported on the news that they found a body on the side of the road about 12 miles from where they lived, and the police chalked it up to a hit and run. Ethan's parents were never caught for the crime, but they lived in constant fear and the thought looming in the back of their minds, who was that who called? The guilt from that whole event caused both of them to turn to religion because they didn't know what else to do. So fast forward to the present, both Ethan's parents start connecting the dots. They knew they needed to act fast before their son could be possessed by this vengeful spirit. They tried praying over him and encouraged him to join them in prayer, but their attempts were met with taunts. By this point, Ethan had already given himself up to what he originally thought was Lil Peep, and the responses that he was giving to his parents were nothing short of disturbing.
"Your boy is damned, and he's coming with me back to hell."
His family no longer believed that medicine could help him, so they tried to turn to more extreme religious solutions instead, and they reached out to a bunch of churches. They tried contacting various priests to see if they would perform an exorcism on Ethan, but most rejected their requests, suggesting that they seek more medical help. But by then, there was no convincing Ethan's parents that this was anything but demonic possession. His behavior changed in an alarmingly rapid pace. And before long, Ethan was crawling around on all fours, barking like a dog and licking his own urine off the floor. He would also sing Lil Peep songs in the most twisted format they had ever been sung.
"Lil Bo Peep with a brand new bitch in the back of the club with the God's boy click."
Ethan's parents began to beg whatever churches they could find to perform an exorcism on him for days. But eventually, they found a priest who agreed to do it. And over the course of 3 weeks, the priest performed 8 exorcisms on Ethan, each one getting more vile and nastier than the last. It was almost like each session reinforced the demon's possession over Ethan and gave it more power and control. But after the 8th session, something happened to Ethan that would stay and haunt his family for the rest of their days. Ethan started to vertically projectile blood from his mouth. It was so much that it reportedly went as high as the ceiling. And when he was done, he rolled his eyes all the way to the back of his head, and all he said was, "You'll find him where the dam shall be kept." And after those final words, Ethan's body began to twist in the most unnatural way possible, cracking every bone on the way. Then he took his last breath and passed away. Yeah, this story was pretty tough to get through, but if you're still here, thanks for watching, and make sure to throw me a like and subscribe to the channel for more content like this.